While we respect the office of the presidency, we won't hesitate for a moment to call out the person occupying that office if he demeans women or Muslims or Latinos or our friends in the LGBT community. And if allies or aides to the president demean a group of Americans, we won't hesitate for a moment to demand that our new president condemn these comments, not sidestep them, not simply distance himself from them, condemn them pointedly and roundly.
Chuck Schumer, now officially the Senate Minority Leader, his 115th Congress, gets sworn in today. New York Senator went on to say his party will work with Trump and the GOP on issues with common ground, but they will resist and fight when they do not agree. One of those issues sure to be, you guessed it, Obamacare. Now, President Obama, he is meeting with congressional Democrats tomorrow morning, and the whole plan is to try and strategize on how to save his signature program. Al Hunt of Bloomberg said that Republicans have a lot of concerns on their plate in the first 100 days, and Obamacare one of the biggest. His piece in part saying, quote, "Nothing worries this new majority more than health care. Attacking Obamacare for the past 7 years has been low-hanging fruit. But devising their own health plan, which they've never done, without millions of people losing coverage and hospitals and insurance companies getting clobbered, is beyond daunting." Hunt also says that Republicans have a whole lot of rifts over things like infrastructure, tax cuts, spending, and as we discussed earlier, ethics, or just playing well with one another. And it's interesting, Dominic, that Chuck Schumer, now the most powerful Democrat in Washington, Donald Trump reportedly saying, if you believe the New York Post, but it seems to make sense, that he likes Schumer, does Trump, more than some of the Republican leaders because Schumer wants the deal. Schumer believes you try and make a deal here, you trade. And you've got some of the zealots on the other side who believe, as Jeannie said last segment, that negotiation is equivalent to capitulation. It's an interesting dance Schumer's got to walk here because Democrats still don't want to recognize, some of them, that this guy's really the next president. And secondly, he's also got to, at the same part, recognize reality that you got 10 U.S. senators, Democrats, that are coming up in states that Trump won in the next cycle here. There's one thing with having 46 seats in the Senate. There's another thing with having it in the 30s, right, where you can't stop anything. So he's got a tough spot he's in.
As you well know, Richard, Schumer and Trump have danced before. They know each other. They were often on the same nighttime social network or circle in New York. Schumer has already signaled he's going to work with Trump. The devil is in the details here. They can't fight every battle, Democrats. So in other words, on Trump's appointees, they're going to have to pick and choose. Because frankly, everybody at this table knows you could pick almost everyone that Trump has appointed and make a real strong case for why they should not have that job. But Democrats are not going to be in a position to fight every battle. So Schumer's going to have to pick and choose. It's a fine dance. He's in a, it's great for New York in terms of if he's in a tradition of bringing home the bacon, taking over finally as Harry Reid's number 2 now that Mr. Reid is retired. But boy, is it going to be a careful threading of the needle for Mr. Schumer. And
he's already said he's going to do things a little differently than his predecessor, Harry Reid. But let's use Obamacare as an example. And I can apply this to a whole host of other issues right now, including even infrastructure in different ways. The Democrats have two choices as I see it, Congressman. One is they can say, we're going to dig in our heels. As Dominic says, we're going to fight them tooth and nail for every single thing here. And you know what? These SOBs were obstructionary for the last 8 years here. The heck, I'm going to go out of my way to help them, right? So, secondly, they could say, let's do our best to save the best things that we can of this program and other issues, infrastructure, which we've been trying to get forever. Let's let Trump have a victory here, but let's do it on some other terms so there's not riots or whatever else here. We need roads getting built. We need bridges replaced, blah, blah, blah. If they do the latter, they'll like the policy more, but they're handing political victories over to a guy who's already entering with historically low approval ratings into a new presidency and giving him firm footing. Conversely, if they stop him at every step of the way, they're everything they said that they hated, and they may be playing into the hands of a guy who works in media better than they do in Trump. Which way do you think they go?
I agree with Dominic that they are going to choose their battles. They, the Democrats in the Senate particularly, are going to choose their battles carefully.
Before you go on, though, progressives, I believe, are the missing story here, where you have the Bernie Sanders and the rest who said, you know what, I bit my tongue here for the last 8 years and before, because Democrats said I had to go along to get along here. No more. You know, now I'm going to do what the Tea Party did on the right, where I'm not going to go along to get along. And if I don't believe we're getting the deal that we want here, I'm going to throw a monkey wrench into this. Will Democrats fall in line behind Schumer?
Yes, because they're not it's not an all or nothing situation. There's going to be thousands of issues that come up in the next 4 years that the Democrats are going to have to sift through. Gee, these are ones we like. We do agree with some reform here. No, these are ones where we're going to stand our ground. For example, we won't let the Republicans privatize Social Security or Medicare or Medicaid. Things like that, they will stand their ground and be fiercely opposed to Trump. But on the Obamacare question, on the repeal of it, there's a piece, Jennifer Rubin, a very conservative political columnist, newspaper columnist, just came out with an op-ed. Again, she's a very conservative, arguably right-wing columnist who says, listen, you can't repeal Obamacare unless you have something to replace it with. If you say you're going to repeal it now, you're going to have 22 million people who otherwise wouldn't have had insurance but for Obamacare. They're going to be left to dry. Plus, America's insurance companies are going to suffer. They won't know what the heck is going to be coming down the road. They won't know how to plan financially
Goes for the
or
hospitals
otherwise.
too. I can tell you that from a firsthand account, hearing that. But Jeannie, the political calculation the Democrats have to make right now, they could call the bluff of the GOP on Obamacare and say, do it, okay? Go ahead, do your worst. Let's see what happens. Let's see you explain to these voters here who never really were sold what Obamacare did, that all of a sudden they don't have health care anymore, and somebody with a pre-existing condition is stuck out in the cold like they used to be or whatever else. See how that plays here, so the next election cycle we can do it. Which way do you think they go?
Well, the Democrats have a challenge on their hands, because let's not forget, the reason that they chose Chuck Schumer was because they thought he would be a good majority leader. And he is now the minority leader. And anybody who knows Chuck Schumer knows that this is not a great position for Chuck Schumer. If you read the exit interview by Harry Reid in the New York Magazine, it was fascinating, because the author made the point that Chuck Schumer is a 60% guy. He likes to be on the side of what is popular, and now he finds himself in the unfortunate position of being minority leader. So this is going to be a challenge for Chuck Schumer, and we've seen how he's responded so far. He's been handing out leadership posts like candy to try to keep this caucus together, because he's facing this problem of these 10 running in these Republican districts. He's got to hold this caucus together. So I'm not sure, listening to his remarks today, that I heard any good answer to the question, how are you moving forward?
Couldn't you argue, though, that Trump needs him as much as he needs Trump, though?
You could argue that, but I would also caution that, you know, Trump is in the good position of being able to work with Republicans in the Senate and in the House. And I'm not so certain. I'm not so certain he's going to need Chuck Schumer as much as some people think he's going to need him. He may like him. He may be comfortable with him as a New Yorker. And that's why I really do believe that Al Hunt is onto something when he says that what Democrats have to do is they have to let Republicans fail, because governing is tough work and it requires compromise. Let them try to do it. They've been in the position of being the opposition for so long. Let them be in the position of owning what they're doing. And that's a tough thing to do.
I do. I think the Democratic position on Obamacare should be you break it, you bought it, so that they can hang on Republicans everything, including premium increases that have nothing to do with the repeal of it over the next couple of years. Put all of the ownership that was on Obama, they need to put on the Republicans and put on Donald Trump. As for those 10 senators who are in Trump voting states, I think the goal shouldn't be to try to save the jobs of those 10 senators. It should be to swing the votes of those 10 states.
All right. Coming up next here, we're going to bring this thing closer to home. Governor Cuomo with a really interesting both policy and political play today with his plan to give free college tuition to hundreds of thousands of students. We'll tell you how this thing could work and also ask the question, how do we pay for it?